in the dead of night. The relentless sound of things being smashed echoed through the air. A bailiff with a vicious face raised the club in his hand high and barked. "You're about to be exiled, and you still won't obey? Looks like you haven't had enough beatings yet." A sharp scream rang out in the middle of the night. Tong-wai drowsily opened her eyes. Seeing the fear on her daughter's face, she gently comforted her. "Connie had another nightmare. Don't be afraid, mother is here. Be good. Dreams are all fake. They won't come true." Nam-ka trembled all over, wiping her tears as she tried to explain. No, that dream was real. It was also in that dream that she learned the world she lived in was actually just a storybook. The title of that story was After Changing Husbands, I Rose to the Peak of Life. Ironically, the female lead in the book was named Tong Tuesday, who was Nam-ka's maternal aunt. In her previous life, Tong Tuesday had married the heir of the Inbin Marquis Manor thanks to their grandfather's favor. But who would have thought that in the end, her family property would be confiscated and she would die in exile? Meanwhile, Nam-ka's mother, Tong-wai, had married a poor scholar, yet while still young, she became the wife of a grand chancellor and enjoyed boundless glory. So after being reborn, Tong Tuesday chose without hesitation to switch husbands and marry the poor scholar. As for her mother, she was married off to the Marquis heir instead, becoming the foil to Tong Tuesday's brilliant life. Fear filled her once clear eyes. Nam-ka gritted her teeth and kept thinking, if I remember correctly, in the story world, the Mid-Autumn Festival is the day our whole family is exiled to Kim Chau, and today is that very day. On the road to exile, our rations would be cut, and we would suffer all kinds of beatings from the bailiffs. Her grandmother was beaten to death on the spot while trying to protect her. Seeing the person who loved her most die, Nam-ka cried until she had no tears left, clinging tightly to her and refusing to let go. Wah, grandmother! And that was not all. In the dream, she had also clearly seen those bailiffs harboring evil intentions toward her mother. Let go of my mother. Let go. To save her mother, her father had risen up to fight the bailiffs, but the result had not gone well. In the end, he was beaten to death by the Yamen runners. Of course, her mother also failed to escape being humiliated by them. As for herself, she was sold straight into a brothel. Thinking of that tragic and heartbreaking future, Nam-ka could not hold back her tears. Her mother sat up and smiled as she rubbed her head to soothe her. "Don't be afraid, sweetheart. It was only a nightmare. It isn't real." She buried her head against her mother's shoulder and slowly thought everything over again. At first, I also didn't believe this dream was real, but all the earlier dreams had come true, so it's hard not to believe it. The first time, she had dreamed that her grandmother's beloved cat suddenly died. Sure enough, the next day it really did die, and her grandmother cried herself sick with grief. After that, she dreamed of several days of continuous rain, causing the water in the manor pond to rise so high it nearly flooded the rear garden, with many fish washing out. The very next day, everything happened exactly as it had in her dream. One event after another seemed to prove to her that everything she dreamed could really happen. Tong-wai thought Nam-ka was still little and had merely frightened herself in a panic, so she did not take her daughter's words too seriously. There, let mother lie down and sleep with you a little longer." Nam-ka cried without stopping, her heart burning with anxiety. She sat up and shook her mother's shoulders, trying hard to persuade her. "Mother, we can't sleep anymore. Everything I'm saying is true. Today is Mid-Autumn Festival, and as soon as dawn breaks, the Imperial Guards will come to search the house. I just dreamed that our whole family was confiscated and sent into exile." Sleepiness washed over her, and Tong-wai raised a hand to her mouth, yawning again and again as she casually said, confiscation? Mother knows. How scary. Go back to sleep a little longer. When you wake up, Mother will talk to you about confiscation again. All right?" Unable to move her mother, Nam-ka grew even more anxious, beads of sweat appearing on her face. "Mother, I saw it clearly in my dream. Father was accused of embezzlement. Our house really was confiscated, and we were exiled. Then on the road, the whole family was tormented terribly, Mother." Nam-ka went on, but her mother still drifted back to sleep. Then she noticed light shining into the room. She lifted her head and looked out the window, and her whole body froze. "What do I do? It's dawn already." Just as she still did not know what to do, a bailiff's piercing shout rang throughout the Inbin Marquis Manor. By imperial order of Prince Twin, the family property is to be confiscated. Everyone outside at once. Tong-wai sat bolt upright, her face pale as death, staring in disbelief. "What?" Nam-ka cried even harder. "It's too late. The Imperial Guards have already arrived." A eunuch holding the Imperial Edict loudly read out. After investigation, it has been discovered that Lai Mo, heir to the Inbin Marquis Manor and director of the Ministry of Revenue, embezzled funds and stockpiled inferior porridge grain. By His Majesty's order, the entire manor is to be searched thoroughly. No place is to be overlooked. The women and family members of the Inbin Marquis Manor were quickly driven by the bailiffs to one spot in the middle of the courtyard. Over there, from inside the red carriage parked nearby, came the deep, hoarse, and cold voice of a young man, just reaching adulthood, full of authority. Search, held in her mother's arms. Namka secretly looked toward the carriage from which the voice had come. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as in her dream. Her father was an official in the Ministry of Revenue responsible for managing the ministry's warehouses. Someone had accused him of taking bribes and secretly storing inferior goods submitted by the provinces in his own warehouse. In Daiso, the lighter punishment for corruption and bribery was confiscation of property and exile. The heavier punishment was beheading. The more she thought about it, the colder her spine felt. Namka was unwilling to accept a fate imposed on her like this. She silently made up her mind. No, I have to quickly think of a way out and find a path to survival. The Bin head of household angrily shouted, "Where is that unfilial son?" Tongwai trembled all over in fear, tears streaming down her face, unable to speak. At that moment, Namka remained calm in a way she never had before. She answered in her mother's place in a clear voice. Father should be at the censorate right now. The censorate would have submitted the memorial to His Majesty first before coming to confiscate the property. Bin head of household looked rather surprised at first, but the next second, he paid little attention to Namka's words and waved his hand impatiently. Quiet, quiet. What a child now. Go to the side and stop getting in the way. Then, as if recalling something, he paused. Speaking of the censorate, I just remembered. Lowering his voice, he looked at Tong Wai and probed. I remember your brother-in-law was just transferred there, wasn't he? Though Tong Wai did not understand why he was asking, she still answered honestly, yes. Hearing that, he sat down and began plotting in a low voice. Slip into your room now and write a letter asking your brother-in-law for help. Then I'll have someone crawl through the dog hole at the back gate and deliver it to him. Your brother-in-law is an assistant censor-in-chief. If he can pull some strings, this matter may not be beyond saving. Tong Wai thought that made sense and nodded repeatedly. Right. My younger sister has always been closest to me, and my brother-in-law's mentor is the current Right Chancellor. If they are willing to help, my husband will definitely be all right. The Bin head of household carefully added. In the letter, make sure to state clearly that if they can help the whole family escape punishment, once this matter is settled, I will certainly reward them generously. Tong Wai said happily, my younger sister and brother-in-law are both very good people. Once they see the letter, they'll definitely think of a way to save our family. There's no time to waste. I'll go write it right now. Just as she was about to leave, Namka reached out and grabbed her. The little girl's expression turned grave as she firmly stopped her. Mother, you must not write to Aunt. Anxiety surged up from the bottom of her heart. In the dream, the reason their whole family was ultimately exiled was precisely because of this plea for help letter from her mother. Connie, stop making trouble. This is the only way to save our family. Namka was so frantic that she burst into tears. Mother, don't write it. You absolutely must not. There were some things she dared not say out loud. Clenching her teeth, she thought silently. Father was framed for embezzlement, and the mastermind behind it all was Aunt and Uncle. Aunt had always been jealous of Mother, so she and Uncle came up with this scheme together. Tong Tuesday had advised her husband, Husband, if you can expose this matter and earn merit, it will surely help you rise quickly in official rank. Namka knew exactly why she had done it. After being reborn and changing husbands, Aunt was unwilling to let Uncle remain just a lowly fifth-rank censor beneath Father at the censorate, so she incited him to accuse Father. Thus, in the dream, after receiving this plea for help letter, Uncle immediately turned around and presented it directly to the Emperor. And the line in the letter, if you can help us escape punishment, our whole family will certainly reward you generously, was taken as solid evidence that Father had offered bribe. After reading the letter, the Emperor flew into a rage and directly decreed that the entire Marquis household be exiled to Kim Chow. As for Uncle, thanks to this so-called righteous act of putting justice before family, he was promoted 2 ranks in a row and transferred directly from the censorate to the Ministry of Personnel. Namka clenched her tiny fists and bit her lip, thinking, I cannot let Uncle step on my family's blood to climb higher again. If I want to save everyone, the first thing I have to do is stop Mother from writing that letter. No sooner thought than done, she signaled for her mother to bend down. Then she leaned close and whispered into her mother's ear, Mother, do you see now? My dream has come true. Only then did Tong Wai snap awake, looking at the bailiffs confiscating their property and thinking to herself, that's right, the child said our property would be confiscated, and who would have thought it would come true in the blink of an eye? In order to turn the situation around and stop her mother from writing the letter, Namka had no choice but to tell her everything. Mother, in my dream, I also saw Uncle presenting your plea for help letter to the Emperor. After reading it, the Emperor became furious and ordered our entire family exiled to Kim Chow. So this letter absolutely must not be written. Tong Wai was stunned on the spot by what her daughter said, unable to believe it. Her brows knitted tightly together as she asked in disbelief, Could it be you remembered wrong? Since childhood, your aunt has always treated me very well, and your uncle is also a warm-hearted and loyal man. How could they possibly refuse to save us? Namka could only make up a story on the spot. Mother, in my dream, I met a very kind immortal lady. She was the one who told me all this. The immortal lady wouldn't be wrong. Since Mother believes in Buddha, maybe if I say it this way, she'll believe me. Facing Tong, Y's astonished gaze, she heard her murmur, an immortal lady? The had been head of household. Having waited a long time without seeing Tong, Y go write the letter, lost patience, and angrily scolded, Tong, what are you still hesitating for? Hurry up and write the letter. Namka quickly stepped in front of her mother and tactfully refused in her place. A few days ago, when Uncle came to our house, he took a fancy to one of Father's treasured calligraphy paintings. Father couldn't bear to give it away, so Uncle left in anger. If we write asking for help now, Uncle may not necessarily be willing to help. Besides, I believe Father didn't embezzle anything. Someone must have framed him. If we rush to write asking for help, it will only make us look guilty instead. Hearing her analyze the matter so logically, the been head of household was so surprised that he paused. Tongwai also sided with her daughter. Father-in-law, what Connie says makes a lot of sense. How about we listen to her for once? After thinking it over, the Bin head of household still kept the same attitude. It's just one painting. What's there to mention? Your uncle is talented and broad-minded. How could he be such a petty man? Besides, don't tell me someone framed that unfilial son of mine. If people wanted to frame someone, why wouldn't they frame someone else? Why target him specifically? Hearing her grandfather belittle her father like this, Nam-Ka ground her teeth in anger. Although father could be somewhat willful and disliked court politics, and grandfather was impatient for success and had never liked father's way of doing things, how could he say such things about his own son? No matter how the Bin head of household objected, Tong Wai still would not compromise. Father-in-law, I think what Connie says makes perfect sense. This letter cannot be written. Seeing that Tong refused to obey, the Bin head of household kicked her hard in the back. Absurd. If you won't write it, then I will. Whether your uncle can help turn things around or not, at least writing the letter gives us some hope. Are we supposed to just sit here and wait for death? Nam-Ka recklessly rushed after him and hugged his leg to stop him. Grandfather, you mustn't write it. Move aside. Stop standing here and getting in my way. With that, he coldly flung his leg and sent Nam-Ka's tiny body flying. Tong Wai rushed over in heartache to help her daughter up. Connie, does it hurt? The Bin head of household went over to the table and hurriedly wrote the plea for help letter. She stood there watching his back, helplessly biting her lip until it bled. Grandfather's temper was hot and stubborn, and he was very hard to persuade. But if this letter really was sent, father's guilt would likely be nailed down completely. After finishing the letter, the Bin head of household took advantage of a moment when no one seemed to notice and secretly moved toward the window, intending to take the letter out. Seeing this, Nam-Ka's insides twisted with panic. This is bad. Grandfather is about to send someone to deliver the letter. Then there's only one thing left to do. She took a deep breath and then shouted with all her might, Grandfather, why is no one guarding under the window? Hurry and run. The moment the bailiffs heard her cry, their sharp eyes turned toward the Bin head of household. One of them drew his sword and shouted, What are you doing? Sit still. Before the old man could react, a bailiff had already grabbed him by the collar, hauled him back, and ordered, add more guards behind the window. The plan he had thought was about to succeed was ruined by Nam-Ka, and the Bin head of household's face twisted with fury. He walked over and lifted his foot, wanting to vent his anger on her. You wretched little girl. Terrified, Nam-Ka hurried behind the nearby bailiff and cried, Uncle, save me. The bailiff glanced at her and judged. The girl was so cute, but unfortunately a little foolish. The Bin Marquis had obviously been planning to run out and seek help, yet he had unexpectedly been exposed by his own silly granddaughter shouting aloud. A protective impulse suddenly rose in him, and he sternly said to the Bin head of household, Sit still. If you keep causing trouble, don't blame me for being rude. He threw Nam-Ka a look full of hatred. You wretched little girl. If this whole family suffers because of your father and you, I'll be the first to beat you. Nam-Ka was not afraid at all and stared right back at him. As long as that letter to Uncle isn't sent, father's case will definitely still have room to turn around. In this life, I absolutely will not let my family suffer again. With the danger resolved, she quickly ran back to her mother. Tong Wai held her daughter tightly in her arms and asked urgently, Tell mother quickly, did the immortal lady tell you how to save the whole family? Nam-Ka once again looked toward the carriage parked nearby. In the dream, the whole family had been exiled, so naturally no one had saved them, but that did not mean there was no chance. She lifted her eyes to her mother and asked, Mother, do you believe father embezzled? Tong Wai shook her head. Your father has always been broad-minded and has always treated money like dirt. How could he possibly have embezzled? She continued her analysis. Exactly. Right now, the Emperor has only ordered the confiscation of our property. He probably intends to wait for the search results before deciding how to deal with us. If father really didn't embezzle, embezzle, then there definitely won't be any dirty money or incriminating evidence in the house. Am I right? Tong Wai was astonished again and again. That's right. Connie makes perfect sense. This child had always been lively and adorable, but at this moment her speech was clear and organized, as though she had become a completely different person. Sure enough, she must have been guided by the immortal lady. Nam Ka went over to the table and wrote something. Then she handed it to her mother and said, "Mother, hurry and give this to the person in that carriage outside." Tong Wai looked at the nearby carriage and hesitated slightly. Huh? Was this also instructed by the immortal lady? Nam Ka instinkito not det repeat den. Yes. The person sitting in that carriage is Twin Vong, the current emperor's full younger brother by the same mother, and he is extremely favored by the emperor. If we want to save father and save the whole family, then Twin Vong is our only ray of hope. Nam Ka's mind worked quickly as she carefully weighed everything. Although Twin Vong had only just turned 12 this year, the emperor had already entrusted the imperial guards to him. For someone so young to command 50,000 imperial guards was the height of imperial favor. It had even led the ministers at court to whisper in private that after the emperor's 100 years, he intended to let Twin Vong inherit the throne. After thinking it through carefully, Lai Nam Ka looked at her mother and said with firm resolve, "If we want to save father and save this whole family, Twin Vong may be our only way." Seeing the certainty in her daughter's eyes, Tong Wai pulled herself together as well. "All right, I'm willing to try once." Taking a gamble, she handed the letter to the bailiff, standing guard outside the carriage. "Please deliver this letter to the prince." The bailiff coldly raised a hand to refuse. "Don't even think about bribing our prince." Tong Wai steeled herself and pushed forward anyway. As she stuffed the letter into the bailiff's hand, she lowered her voice and said vaguely, "It's not a bribe. What's inside concerns the matter the prince cares about most." The bailiff glanced at the letter in his hand and hesitated slightly, but in the end, he still decided to take it. "Wait here." When Yin Bin, head of household, saw this, he nearly exploded with rage and jumped up cursing. "Idiots! Twin Vong is notorious for being cruel, stubborn, cold-blooded, and vicious. Just last month, he ordered the extermination of Censor Lu's entire clan, and yet you're asking him for help? For all we know, he might order all of us beheaded on the spot right now." The moment he finished speaking, a loud sound came from inside the carriage. The letter Tong Wai had just sent and was torn into pieces and thrown out through the curtain. Tong Wai's body trembled as she collapsed to the ground, her face pale as she muttered, "How could this be? Why? Why did it turn out like this?" Behind her, even the Bin head of household was frozen stiff with fear. Nam Ka's brows knit tightly together. Is it because what I wrote was too brief, so Twin Vong didn't understand? After recovering himself, the Bin head of household seized the chance to point and curse again. "See? What did I say? How could Twin Vong possibly save us?" Lai Nam Ka, don't think I don't know this was your idea. You're exactly like your damned father. You want to drag the whole family down with you? I'll beat you to death today to apologize to Twin Vong. As he spoke, he lunged forward, intending to strike his granddaughter. Fortunately, Tong Wai jumped out midway to shield Nam Ka. "Father-in-law, if you want to hit someone or scold someone, then do it to me. Don't frighten Kar. You two caused this disaster, so clean it up yourselves. If you can't, I'll beat this girl to death immediately." His hand still showed no sign of stopping. Unable to bear the sight, the bailiff stepped forward and grabbed his arm, shouting, "What are you making a fuss about?" The Bin head of household immediately washed his hands of the matter. That letter just now was written by the mother and daughter on their own. It has nothing to do with the rest of us. Nam Ka asked in her clear voice, "Uncle, does the prince want to see my mother?" The bailiff was rather surprised that Nam Ka had guessed this in advance, and his gaze as he examined her became more careful. This little girl doesn't seem so foolish after all. The prince summons Madame Tong. The Bin head of household chuckled smugly and said, "See, I told you. How could the prince possibly?" But halfway through, he suddenly realized the problem. His face broke out in cold sweat as he stared at Tong Wai and her daughter in disbelief. "What? The prince wants to see her. How could Tien Vong possibly summon Madame Tong? He must be calling her over to punish her on the spot." Convinced he was right, he shoved Tong Wai's shoulder without hesitation. "Hurry up and go plead guilty to the prince. Don't implicate us." Tong Wai could not suppress the fear rising in her heart. With tears in her eyes, she looked at her daughter as if asking for help. "Kaya." Seeing her mother's expression, Nam Ka sighed inwardly. "I know mother is afraid, but there is no better way. She has to go this time. I had planned to go speak to Twin Vong myself, but I'm only 8 years old. The words of an 8-year-old child won't be convincing enough." She looked at the bailiff with big, sparkling eyes full of pitiful appeal and tugged lightly at his sleeve. "Uncle, can I go with my mother? Please, uncle. Kar will be good. I won't speak carelessly or cause trouble. Her expression successfully softened the bailiff's heart. Faced with those glittering eyes, he couldn't bear to refuse. This little girl is so soft and adorable, but what a bitter fate she has. If she truly ends up exiled, that kind of pain and torment is not something an ordinary person can endure. Fine then. If I can help, I'll help a child. Surely the prince won't blame me. Having made up his mind, he cleared his throat a few times and agreed. All right then, go on. Nam-Ka beamed happily and thanked him again and again. Thank you, uncle. You really are a good person. Good people will be rewarded. Seeing that her mother was still standing there in a daze, she tugged at her sleeve. Mother, let's go quickly. We mustn't keep the prince waiting. She rose on tiptoe and whispered in her mother's ear. Mother, you must remember what I just said. Whether father can be saved depends entirely on that. Tong Wai's expression turned serious. Mother remembers. When they reached the carriage, Nam-Ka knelt beside her mother and paid their respects. This subject woman, Tong, greets your highness. Li Nam-Ka greet your high. A cough sounded from inside the carriage, and then a deep, hoarse, somewhat cold voice rang out. Gomein. Fear surged through Tong Wai once more, and she could no longer contain her emotions. Covering her mouth, she thought in terror. This voice alone is enough to send chills down one's spine. At that moment, Nam-Ka tightly gripped her mother's hand. Smiling brightly, she pointed at her own face and said confidently, the fairy already gave me guidance. With me here, everything will definitely work out. Bolstered by her daughter, Tong Wai calmed down considerably. The mother and daughter timidly lifted the carriage curtain and slowly stepped inside. All of a sudden, a huge hound bared its sharp teeth and let out a low growl. Tong Wai hugged her daughter tightly in fear. Car, be careful. Seeing the large dog about to pounce at her, Tong Wai screamed shrilly. Don't. She had thought this trip meant certain doom for the two of them, but what happened next left her stunned. The fierce beast for moments before took one look at Nam-Ka and instantly did a complete turnaround. Delighted, as if it had found an old friend, it kept licking the little girl's head. Nam-Ka wriggled out of her mother's arms and used her tiny hands to stroke the white dog's head. A familiar feeling arose in her heart. It feels like I played with it many times in my dreams. What like most was rubbing its head against my chest and face. I even know its name is. When Twin Vong saw his beloved beast getting close to someone else, he looked displeased and coldly ordered, Tuedung, come back here. That icy voice alone was enough to make Nam-Ka freeze on the spot. She looked toward the man seated in front of her, the infamous god of slaughter. And just then, he happened to be observing her as well. Twin Vong withdrew his gaze and called again, Tuedung, come back. Tuedung looked unwilling to leave Nam-Ka and let out a low whining sound, as if resisting his command. Seeing that Tuedung was still being stubborn, his face darkened as he shot at a cold glare. He waved a hand and ordered the people outside, take it away, punish it, no meat for 2 days. The bailiff quickly entered and led Tuet-Ung away to carry out the punishment. Before leaving, this bailiff was still worried about Nam-Ka. This poor girl really is ill-fated. Why did she have to provoke Tuet-Ung for no reason? Aside from the prince, Tuet-Ung had never been close to anyone, yet today it suddenly approached this little girl. She must have used some kind of trick. The prince will probably get rid of her. But Nam-Ka was utterly calm, fearless. She looked straight at Twin Vong and studied him. 12 years old should have been the age when boys were at their liveliest. Yet he wore a thick white fox fur cloak every single day, and there was not the slightest trace of vitality in his complexion. So this is what Tam Tong looked like in his youth. The scenes from her dream seemed to appear clearly before Nam-Ka's eyes. In the dream, it was he who had redeemed her out of the brothel. At the time, she had not understood why he would do such a thing. But in the end, he died because of her. Though she did not know the reason, it must certainly have been her fault. Thinking of Tam Tong's ending in that dream, a sharp pain suddenly pricked Nam-Ka's heart. She pulled herself back to the present. There was still important business to do. Looking at her mother encouragingly, she said, Mother, don't be afraid. Speak. Tong Wai clenched her hands to gather her courage and forced herself to say, Your Highness, this subject woman wishes to. Before she could finish, Tam Tong's cold voice cut her off. You want to negotiate conditions with this prince? You want this prince to save your whole family? But this prince has never had any interest in saving trash. Suddenly, he gave a cold laugh as an idea came to him. However, if you are willing to agree to one condition of mine, this prince can give you one chance. Without even thinking, Tong Wai immediately agreed. Forget one condition, even 10 or 100 would do. As long as you can save my husband and my whole family, I will agree to anything. Tam Tong let out another cold laugh. Pointing at Nam-Ka, he said, Tuedung usually likes fatty, tender, fresh meat. I think she's not bad either. How about? Before hearing the end of the sentence, Tong Wai already understood what Tam Tong intended. Her face turned deathly pale as she stepped in front of her daughter protectively. Use my flesh instead. As long as your highness saves my husband, I am willing to offer this body to the dog. If you can't bear to part with your daughter, then get out. Tong Wai fell to her knees, crying as she begged, I only have this one daughter. She is my very life. I beg your highness to show mercy. Nam Ka, unlike her mother, was exceptionally calm at this moment. Unafraid, she stepped forward. Though her voice was childish, it carried a firmness that could not be ignored. I am willing to let Tuet Ung eat me, so long as your highness is willing to clear my father's name. Tam Tong was rather surprised by Nam Ka's reaction. Oh, this little girl isn't afraid of me. Kaar, no, let's think of another way. There must be another way. Mother would rather die than let you take such a risk. Nam Ka raised a hand to wipe away her mother's tears and smiled lightly to comfort her. Mother, don't be afraid. Didn't the prince just punish Tuet Ung with 2 days without meat? That means I still have at least 2 more days to live. She looked at her mother and mouthed silently, a grief first. I have my own way. How could Tong Wai dare let her daughter risk herself? This was Twin Vong, a man who killed without blinking. How could she gamble with her daughter's life? Nam Ka looked toward Tam Tong and said meaningfully, 2 days is enough time for your highness to thoroughly investigate my father's case. Someone as capable as your highness. Perhaps 1 day, no, surely even half a day would be enough, right? Faced with her honeyed flattery, Tam Tong's expression did not change in the slightest. How naive. Does she think flattering me will have any effect? Nam Ka boldly asked. We have already agreed to your highness's condition, so your highness should also keep your word and give us a chance, correct? Inwardly she calculated, I don't know why the letter I wrote was useless, but now that Twin Vong is willing to talk to us, I must seize this chance. Tam Tong found himself growing more and more intrigued by Nam Ka. This little girl even knows how to slip through loopholes in my words. Interesting. I'd like to see how she plans to deal with being fed to the dog 2 days from now. In the embezzlement case of Lai Mo, the censorate has already investigated and verified everything. There are both witnesses and material evidence. On what grounds do you claim Lai Mo was wronged? By reading his face. Hearing the mockery in his words, Nam Ka immediately thought, humph, the prince really does know how to infuriate people. But now isn't the time to get angry. Calmly, she raised her head and asked her mother, Mother, didn't you say there was a way to prove father was innocent? Reminded by her daughter, Tong Wai finally came to herself. That's right, I can't just keep being afraid. This is the brief chance Ka traded for with her life. I must seize it. She wiped away her tears with her sleeve. Handwriting. Your highness can compare the handwriting. Tam Tong Thou Wen. Is that all? Before issuing the order to search the house, His Majesty already commanded the censorate to compare it. The writing in the embezzled warehouse records matches Lai Mo's usual handwriting completely. Growing slightly impatient, he continued in a low voice. This prince has already given you the chance to speak. If you have no other evidence, then get out. The instant she was shouted at, Tong Wai's old habit of crying whenever she was frightened broke out again. She was so scared she could barely speak. And no, what do? I've always been like this since childhood. The moment I'm frightened, I can't stop crying. If I can't think of a way now, then everything really is over. Mother, don't be afraid. I have something small to tell you. Nam Ka stepped closer and whispered a few words into her mother's ear. Prompted by her daughter, Tong Wai hurriedly reached into her sleeve and pulled out an item. That's right. My husband is usually romantic and fond of flirtation. This is a love poem he wrote me 8 years ago. Your Highness can compare this poem with the handwriting in the Ministry of Revenue. You will definitely discover the problem. Tam Tong looked at the love letter, though nothing in his face revealed what he was feeling. Not wanting to lose the opportunity, Nam Ka took the letter herself and walked over to hand it to him. Tam Tong hesitated slightly before finally reaching out to take it. His gaze turned serious as he examined the handwriting on the love letter. After a careful look, he immediately ordered, Ni Fong, suspend the search for now. Station men here to guard the place. That will do. Understood. He glanced coldly at Nam Ka and her mother and barked, Why are you still here? Get out. Mother, let's go. Tong Wai asked in disbelief. Your Highness. Your Highness has agreed. Nam Ka answered with a bright smile. Yes. Just as the mother and daughter were about to leave, Tam Tong's icy voice rang out again. Wait. The sound made Nam Ka's eyes widen in surprise. Uneasy, she looked toward him. What now? Don't tell me the prince changed his mind. Tam Tong smiled strangely, suddenly in the mood to tease her. 2 days from now, this prince will send someone to fetch you. Remember to wash yourself clean. My Tuet Ung likes to eat clean food. Nam Ka did not mind in the least and replied with a radiant smile. Yes, Your Highness. Tong Wai took her daughter's hand and walked out, relieved. Left alone, Tam Tong fixed his gaze on the love letter in his hand and sank into thought. A moment later, he ordered the subordinate outside. Go investigate Lai Mo's daughter. I want to know everything about her from the day she was born until now. Understood. When Yin Bin, head of household, saw the mother and daughter return unharmed, he could not hide his disbelief. He repeatedly asked, The prince actually didn't kill you? How is that possible? What did the prince say? Did he agree to save our whole family? Tong Wai answered uncertainly. It seems he agreed. Her vague answer immediately enraged her father-in-law. What do you mean it seems? You didn't ask clearly? Go ask again when exactly will be released. Nam Ka was quite unhappy with this grandfather's attitude. Grandfather has gone too far. All he knows is how to yell at my mother. With an irritated expression, expression, she stepped forward to support her mother, pointed toward Tam Tong's carriage behind them, and said mockingly, "If grandfather is in such a hurry, why not go ask him yourself? The prince hasn't gone far yet." Bin Bin, head of household, was instantly struck dumb. He didn't have that kind of courage. "You," Tam Tong indifferently ordered, "move the carriage to the censorate. Everyone else, continue guarding this place. No one in the residence is allowed in or out." When Nam Ka saw the bailiffs carrying away countless scrolls, her round eyes suddenly widened. Those scrolls being taken away all seemed to be father's paintings and calligraphy. Only then did the stone weighing on her heart finally lift. Nam Ka let out a relieved breath and thought, if Twin Vong has taken father's paintings and calligraphy away, then he will definitely compare them. At this point, all we can do is wait. Throughout the whole day, the Marquis residents remained in a state of fearful tension. Bailiffs were everywhere, watching their every move. The next day, while the bailiffs stood guard, they suddenly heard a sweet voice and all turned to look. Tong Tuesday arrived carrying a basket of pastries, speaking gently as she introduced herself. "You officers have worked hard. I am family of True Hong from the censorate. I came today with a few things to visit my elder sister's household. Could you perhaps be accommodating?" Out of respect for True Hong's name, the bailiff agreed. "I'll allow you the time of one incense stick. Go in quickly and come out quickly." Tong Tuesday smiled smugly and smoothly entered. Nam Ka also noticed her arrival. "It's Aunt Tong Tuesday, the reborn heroine from book. Now that we weren't exiled according to the original plot, it seems she's getting anxious, so she came to see for herself." Tong Tuesday changed her face faster than flipping a page, crying pitifully as she put on a heartbroken act and called out, "Sister." Seeing her younger sister come to visit, Tong Wai was so moved her eyes filled with tears. A Tuesday, Tong Tuesday handed the basket of pastries to Tong Wai and gently comforted her. "You must have been terrified, sister, right? I'm here now, so don't be afraid." She picked up a piece of pastry and offered it to Nam Ka. "Kara must be hungry, right? Look what Aunt brought you. These are sparrow seed cakes, just baked this morning. They're very sweet, so hurry and eat." Looking at Tong Tuesday's sweet, gentle smile, Nam Ka felt sick. In the past, she had always thought her aunt was wonderful, elegant, and self-assured, unlike her mother, who only knew how to cry whenever something happened. But when life and death were at hand, the person who looked weak and soft like a lump of dough, who only seemed to know how to cry, had been willing to risk everything to protect her. Meanwhile, the person who is usually polished and capable, praised by everyone as a good woman, could smile while pushing them into the abyss. Thinking of the tragic end of the Inbin Marquis Manor, Nam Ka was so furious that she crushed the pastry Tong Tuesday had just handed her. Tong Tuesday then offered pastries to the Inbin head of household. Though her words sounded concerned, her meaning was clearly meant to sow discord. "Marquis, you must be hungry too, right? That makes sense. Brother-in-law caused such a huge incident that all of us were worried sick, let alone your family. No matter how serious things are, you still have to eat first. I brought some pastries to tide you over. I hope you won't disdain them." The Inbin head of household was taken in by Tong Tuesday's outward appearance. As he accepted the pastry, he turned and reproached Tong Wai. "I told you already, when families are joined by marriage, even if the bones break, the sinews still remain. How could there be any reason to stand by and refuse to help? Yet you people insisted on begging someone who would never care about us." The moment Tong Tuesday heard that, she immediately protested. "What do you mean by that, Marquis? Do you think we'd cut ties with your family? That's too unjust to us. After all, my husband is now serving at the censorate. If something happens, he can at least put in a word with his superiors, can't he?" Taking a bite of pastry, the Inbin head of household looked toward Nam Ka and said sarcastically, "It's not that we didn't want to ask your family for help. It's that someone said your husband had taken a liking to one of that unfilial son's paintings, and because he refused to give it to him, we were afraid your husband would bear a grudge over it. Oh heavens, then we've truly been wrong." Tong Tuesday turned to Tong Wai in reproach. "Sister, how could you think of my husband that way? He has always been warm-hearted and loyal. He is absolutely not a narrow-minded man." Wiping her tears, Tong Wai said, "At the time I was too anxious, too frightened and panicked, so I lost my head for a moment." Tong Tuesday put on a display of sisterly affection and stepped forward to tightly clasp Tong Wai's hand. "What are sisters for? Isn't it so that at critical moments we can pull each other up? You are truly muddle-headed. Why didn't you come to us for help instead of going to someone else? Don't tell me you want to beg Twin Vong." Bin Bin head of household snorted coldly and cut in, "Oof. Who else but Twin Vong?" Tong Tuesday covered her mouth and pretended to be frightened. "Sister, you were so foolish. Twin Vong is eccentric and cruel. Though still young, he already dared to get rid of his mother and his elder brother. How could he possibly feel pity for people like us?" Then she began weaving more slander about Shen Tong. "I heard the people under Twin Vong are extremely ruthless when they interrogate prisoners. Skinning people alive and pulling out their tendons is as common to them as eating daily meals. Heavens, who knows how much torture brother-in-law has already suffered." The more Tong Wai heard, the more she trembled in fear. Then, what should I do now? Tong Tuesday had been waiting for exactly that, and immediately said, "My husband has already thought of a way. Sister, however much silver you still have in hand, hurry and take it all out so we can grease some palms." Tong Wai shook her head helplessly. "Silver? How could there be any left in the house? Everything has already been confiscated. What about the dowry shops you brought into the marriage? Since you can't go out, why not give me your personal seal? I'll make the trip for you. If we act before the Imperial Guard seals up the dowry shops, I can help you withdraw whatever silver is still usable." Tong Tuesday lowered her voice and coaxed her. "Whatever you have, put all of it into this. We have to keep brother-in-law alive first. At a time like this, preserving his life is what matters most." Yes, preserving his life is what matters most. Shivering, Tong Wai reached into her sleeve as if to take something out. Nam Ka was faster. She pushed the silver back at once. Resolutely, she stopped her. "Mother, absolutely not. What does it come?" With so many eyes watching around them, Nam Ka could only make up an excuse on the spot. She cried and pleaded, "Mother, can you leave that silver to buy food for Kara? Kaya is so hungry." Tong Tuesday picked up the pastries and tried to coax her. "Good girl, Kara. If you're hungry, then eat the sparrow seed cakes first. Your aunt is discussing how to save your father with your mother." Nam Ka coldly challenged her. "Did aunt forget that if mother and I eat sparrow seeds, we break out in rashes and our lips swell up?" She continued mockingly. "Aunt says every day that she misses mother and me. So it turns out you were only humoring me." "That's right, little sister. I've told you several times already. Ever since I was little, whenever I eat sparrow seeds, I get a rash. Kara inherited it from me, so she can't eat sparrow seeds either." Tong Tuesday, feeling guilty, hurriedly took out another portion of plum blossom cakes to patch things up. "Of course I remembered, of course I did. It's just that I was in a rush just now and mixed them up. Look, these plum blossom cakes are for Kara. You and your mother eat these instead." Tong Wai sharply thought, something's not right. The moment she came in, she handed the sparrow seed cakes to Kara first, and even emphasized that they had been baked this morning. That didn't look like a simple mistake at all. Feeling that something about this was suspicious, Tong Wai immediately changed her mind and tactfully refused. "Little sister, I'll think again about what you just said." Tong Tuesday asked in alarm. "Brother-in-law is in such danger, so what is there left for you to think about?" While nibbling on her cake, Nam Ka asked calmly, "Aunt, both you and uncle believe my father was falsely accused, right?" Tong Tuesday did not understand why Nam Ka was asking something so unrelated, but she still nodded. "Of course. It's because I believe that I'm telling your mother to take out the silver to save him." "Good girl. Family members should help each other. Don't you understand that?" Nam Ka stuffed the last bite of cake into her mouth and made her demand in a clear voice. "If Aunt says family should help one another, then why not let Uncle go directly and help my father? Or is it that if there's no silver, Uncle won't be willing to save him? I understand now. So Aunt and Uncle want my mother's silver." Having her true motives exposed, Tong Tuesday's face turned pale, humiliated and enraged. She raised her hand as if to strike Nam Ka. "Kara, what nonsense are you spouting?" Tong Wai's face turned cold, and her instinct to protect her daughter surged up. She fiercely grabbed Tong Tuesday's wrist. "What are you trying to do, little sister?" Sensing the chill in Tong Wai's eyes and words, Tong Tuesday broke out in cold sweat. "What's going on? That useless older sister of mine has never looked at me like this before." She hurriedly withdrew her hand and said aggrievedly, "It's one thing for Kara to speak recklessly, but don't tell me even you are misunderstanding me too, sister." Tong Wai pulled her daughter tightly into her arms and carefully thought everything through. What Cocker said wasn't without reason. If family truly wanted to help, they would have helped already. Why would they ask for money first? Over there, Tong Tuesday kept hurriedly trying to salvage her image. "You don't often go out, sister, so you don't understand how things work outside. If you ask people to handle matters, how could it not cost money to grease palms?" As Nam Ka listened to her aunt's sophistry, a look of disgust flashed in her eyes. She wiped her mouth and thought to herself, "When the property was being confiscated, I stopped Mother from writing a plea for help letter. Since no letter was received, Uncle can't use that as a pretext to twist black into white and accuse the Marquis Manor. So Aunt intends to trick Mother into taking out silver, then frame it as the Marquis Manor bribing Uncle, making it convenient for him to continue falsely accusing Father." Determination flashed in Nam Ka's eyes. "No, I absolutely cannot let Aunt get what she wants." She said cleverly, "Mother, didn't you say the dowry shops have been losing money one after another lately?" The moment Tong Wai heard that, she understood her daughter's meaning and immediately played along. "Ah yes, my dowry shops have indeed been operating at a loss. They haven't earned a single coin this year." Inwardly, Tong Wai couldn't stop praising her daughter. Kara really is clever. In the blink of an eye, she came up with an excuse to refuse tactfully. But Namka did not stop there. With pitiful eyes, she tugged at Tong Tuesday's sleeve with her little hand and pleaded, "Since Aunt is so sincere about wanting to help us, then could Aunt advance the silver for us first?" Cold sweat streamed down Tong Tuesday, and before she could stop herself, the words "what?" burst out. Realizing she had misspoken, she hastily corrected herself. "Oh no, that's not it. I would like to advance it, but unfortunately our household doesn't have any spare silver either." Inwardly, Tong Tuesday sneered, "I'm not stupid. Why should I spend my own money helping your whole family?" Half believing and half suspicious, she looked at the Bin head of household and asked for confirmation. "Marquis, tell me, isn't Sister lying to me? How could the shops happen to lose money this very year?" "I think Sister is simply reluctant to part with her silver and wants to abandon brother-in-law outright." Tong Tuesday secretly calculated that she could only let the Marquis continue pressuring them. A weak piece of straw like Tong, why would obediently hand over the money as soon as she was frightened a little. Provoked by her words, the Bin head of household angrily ordered, "Your younger sister is right, so hurry up and do as she says. Even if Twin Vong verbally agreed to help you, that doesn't mean he will truly intervene. It's still in-laws like your younger sister who are more reliable, truly willing to help our Marquis Manor." Since Namka had started acting, she intended to carry it through to the end. On her tiny feet, she ran toward her grandfather, stretched out her little hands toward the Bin head of household, and urged, "Grandfather, do you still have silver? Hurry and take it out to save father." The Bin head of household brushed her hands away in disgust. "Where would I get silver to save your father?" Namka innocently replied, "But mother doesn't have silver either, and grandfather is still forcing her to produce some. Does grandfather think mother can conjure silver out of thin air?" As she said this, she suddenly jumped up, her eyes full of anticipation. "Grandfather, do you know how to make silver appear? Then hurry and make some to save father." Her words gave the Bin head of household such a headache that he stood up and waved her away. "What does a child know? Go stand aside." Putting on a disappointed, dejected expression, Namka returned. 2. Then mother and daughter threw their arms around each other and burst into loud sobs. "Mother, what are we supposed to do now? No one has money to save father. So what are we going to do?" "Oh, Kar, don't cry. We mother and daughter truly have wretched fates." Tong Tuesday was left speechless by the sight. "Sister," her heart was burning with frustration. "Why are you crying? You should be handing me the silver already." A yamen runner came in to remind them, "All right, time's up. Leave now." Having no other choice, Tong Tuesday could only leave unwillingly, her goal still unfulfilled. Even at the doorway, she continued her performance of deep affection and called inside, "Sister, don't panic. Once I get back, I'll definitely have my husband think of another solution." Once she had gone farther away, she cursed inwardly. "Damn it. Not only did I fail to get the money, I wasted a whole lot of time for nothing." Watching Tong Tuesday's retreating figure disappear into the distance, Namka curled her lips into a smile and raised a hand to wipe away her tears. "Very good. Mother no longer trusts Tong Tuesday the way she used to. Once father's matter has a result, I'll definitely expose the true faces of Tong Tuesday's whole family to mother." Tong Tuesday left the Marquis Manor in a foul mood. Chewing on her fingernails with a dark expression, she thought, where exactly did things go wrong? Why do the developments match the memories from my previous life? What am I supposed to do now? My husband is still waiting for evidence from me, but I couldn't get anything at all. Suddenly, an idea came to her. Tong Tuesday turned slightly to look back at the Marquis Manor, a sinister smile spreading across her face. "If that's the case, I only need to forge a plea for help letter. I refuse to believe I can't bring charges against your Marquis Manor." At this moment, in the censorate, Shun Tong sat leisurely reading the investigation report. After finishing it, he frowned and asked, "These are the pieces of evidence you found concerning Li Mo's embezzlement?" Zhao Hong, the supervisory censor and also Tong Tuesday's husband, spoke up. "Yes, Your Highness. Please judge wisely. A few days ago, your servant received an anonymous accusation letter. The letter said that Li Mo took bribes and accepted inferior goods into storage. Afterward, we found substandard items in the warehouse, and when we checked, the recorded dates of entry all bore Li Mo's signature. I also compared the handwriting in the attendance register for that day with the registration ledger, and the information matches completely." Hearing the unfamiliar voice, Shin Tong lifted his eyes and asked, "Who are you?" The official in charge of the censorate stepped forward to introduce him. "This is Supervisory Censor Zhao Hong, who was transferred here last month. Since he is Li Mo's brother-in-law, I originally intended to have him withdraw from the case, but unexpectedly, Censor Zhao took the initiative to shoulder the responsibility." He then praised Zhao Hong repeatedly. "He investigated and gathered evidence very quickly, and he works neatly and efficiently. In my view, his future prospects are bound to be limitless." Hearing the praise, Zhao Hong felt smug inside. "I'm doing the righteous thing by punishing even my own kin. Tuyen Vong will surely think highly of the way I handled this. Maybe I can even seize this chance for a promotion. But unexpectedly, Shuntong immediately gave a cold snort. Then, without the slightest mercy, he flung the report book straight at Zhao Hong's head. Oomph. You may have the heart to sacrifice family for righteousness, but you don't have the brains to match. Looking at you, there's only one word I want to say: idiot. Being called an idiot, Zhao Hong refused to accept it and raised his voice. Why would your highness speak of me that way? Shuntong coldly shot back. Then let me ask you this. Has Liu Mo personally confessed to embezzlement? No criminal would ever admit to his own crime. Then did you compare the handwriting? I did. Everything matches the register completely. A Yamen runner brought over the love letters between Tong Wai and Liu Mo sirs. Come take a look. Do you notice any difference in the handwriting here? The two men went over and compared them carefully. The handwriting in the letters and paintings was free and flowing, like drifting clouds and running water. But the handwriting in the Ministry of Revenue registration ledger was rounded and delicate. No matter how one looked at it, it did not seem to have been written by the same person. Even with the result right before his eyes, Zhao Hong still stubbornly argued. Even if the handwriting is different, that still can't prove Li Mo didn't embezzle. Maybe Li Mo is skilled in two different styles of writing. Shin Tong's face darkened, and he demanded angrily, maybe, let me ask you, does the censorate investigate cases based on evidence or based on guesswork? The pressure from him made Zhao Hong tremble in fear. It was your servant's slip of the tongue. Pointing at the attendance ledger, Shun Tong analyzed. Li Mo's grandfather was named Li Shun. Therefore, when writing the character Shun, he would omit a stroke to avoid tabooing his grandfather's name. Look at the attendance ledger from the Ministry of Revenue and the warehouse registration ledger at the Chen Hour column. See whether Li Mo omitted the stroke. The two men looked where Shun Tong indicated and discovered that the two characters were completely different. The official in charge wavered. For scholars, avoiding the names of one's elders is of utmost importance, so a stroke would definitely have to be omitted. There is absolutely no reason Li Mo would make such an obvious mistake. Could it be that Li Mo really was wronged? Even at this point, Zhao Hong still refused to believe it. He muttered, impossible. Who would accuse a mere section chief from the Ministry of Revenue's Commercial Affairs Division unless he really had embezzled? Suddenly, he thought of Tong Tuesday. That's right, I must nail Li Mo's crime, or I'll become the one who failed to do his job. By this time, my wife should already have received the Li family's plea for help letter, right? Hurry up and arrive already. The moment he thought of Tong Tuesday, he heard someone from outside come in to deliver a message. Lord Zhao, your household has sent over a letter, saying it is needed for official business. Zhao Hong eagerly snatched the letter and read it. To his surprise, things had gone even more smoothly than he had expected. Heaven really is helping me. Your Highness, please have a look. This is a plea for help letter personally written to me by Song, Li Mo's wife. In a letter, she admits guilt on Li Mo's behalf, acknowledges the embezzlement, and even begs me to find a way to help Li Mo escape punishment. The official in charge clasped his hands and praised him. Censor Zhao truly is righteous enough to punish even his own kin, and Madame Zhao is likewise a person who understands the greater good. Truly admirable. Zhao Hong was thrilled to death inside, but outwardly he put on a modest air as he replied, You flatter me, sir. It is only my duty. With this letter, Li Mo's embezzlement can now be considered confirmed. We can submit a memorial directly to His Majesty for judgment. Shin Tong remained silent, as if thinking about something. A few minutes later, he tapped the table with his fingers and ordered, Bring Li Mo in. Very soon, Li Mo was escorted in by two Yamen runners. Although his hands and feet were shackled, Li Mo's expression still showed no sign of submission. The moment Zhao Hong saw him, he immediately hurled the accusation at him. Li Mo, your wife has already confessed on your behalf, with her handwritten letter as evidence. What do you have left to deny? Li Mo answered bluntly in rebuttal. My heart holds only the clear moon and fresh breeze, poetry and song. So don't insult me with this crime that reeks of money. My wife and I are of one mind. She understands my character better than anyone. There is no way she would write a confession on my behalf. Zhao Hong tossed the letter over. This is a handwritten letter from Madame Tong. If you don't believe it, read it yourself. Zhao Hong was utterly certain, as expected of some fool raised in luxury. Just one more step, and I'll have him obediently confessing. Li Mo picked up the letter, intending to read it. But the moment he saw the handwriting, he burst into laughter so hard tears came to his eyes. Ha 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 ha. Who wrote this letter? The handwriting is hideous. Don't make me laugh. Ha ha. Zhao Hong flushed red with anger. Who else could have written it besides your wife, Tong Shi? Her signature is right there on it. Li Mo flatly refused to accept it. Impossible. My wife's handwriting is neat and elegant, not ugly like this. Besides, whenever my wife writes a letter, she seals it with her personal stamp. Yet this one doesn't even have that. This is absolutely not my wife's handwriting. At that moment, Shun Tong finally spoke, asking briefly, Evidence. Liamo reached into his collar and took out something he had hidden carefully inside. Then he presented it to Shun Tong with both hands. Your Highness, please take a look. This is a poem my wife wrote for me. It bears both her signature and her personal seal below. A bailiff came over, took the letter from Liamo, and presented it to Shun Tong. While Shun Tong examined the poem, Liamo explained from below, I carved that personal seal with my own hands. It is the only one in the world. But the writing in that confession letter just now looks as if it was blown apart by a gale, scattered, lifeless, unbearably ugly. It cannot compare to my wife's hand. Shun Tong gave a strange smile and returned the love poem to Liamo. At that moment, he recalled Nam Ka's fearless, resolute face. I'm willing to let Snow Eagle eat me, as long as your highness is willing to clear my father's name. Unexpectedly, he thought, that little girl really did manage to overturn the case. You all come take a look as well. They're clearly not written by the same person. Liamo's letter was obviously written by his wife herself, so this so-called plea for help and confession cannot be counted as evidence. Shun Tong then brought up another matter. Then how do you explain the fact that the handwriting in the Ministry of Revenue roster and the registration ledger is completely different from the handwriting in your own letters? Faced with this question, Liamo stammered, not knowing how to answer. Shun Tong's expression darkened, and he cut him off coldly. What I hate most are liars. Liamo, remember this well. I'm giving you only this one chance. If you do not tell the truth, your entire family will be beheaded. The moment he heard his family mentioned, Liamo panicked. The one who did it should bear it himself. How can your highness implicate my whole family? I'll confess everything myself. With tears in his eyes, he finally told the truth. At the time, my wife suddenly caught a chill and was bedridden. We are deeply devoted to each other, so I wanted to stay by her side and care for her. That was why I couldn't go to the Ministry of Revenue to work. Shun Tong pressed in a low voice, and then Liamo broke into a sweat and answered weakly. So during those few days, I had someone sign the ministry's records in my place. Seeing matters veering far beyond his expectations, Zhao Hong hurriedly tried to stop him. Liamo, this is dereliction of duty. Don't say any more. Absolutely can't let him keep talking. The spear point is about to turn toward me. So this is the embezzlement case the censorate used all its might to investigate? The censorate is supposed to supervise all officials, yet its casework is this sloppy, like a joke. The evidence is chaotic, the verification cursory, all glossy on the outside and empty within. It seems they are not only stupid, but incompetent. Zhao Hong trembled as he dropped to his knees. It's over. I'm finished this time. My official career is done for. After being punished, Zhao Hong returned gloomily to the Zhao residence. The moment Tong Tuesday saw her husband return, she immediately shifted the blame. Liamo, now your wife has confessed on your behalf. With her handwritten letter as evidence, what do you have left to deny? Liamo answered bluntly in rebuttal. My heart holds only the clear moon and fresh breeze, poetry and song. So don't insult me with this crime that reeks of money. My wife and I are of one mind. She understands my character better than anyone. There is no way she would write a confession on my behalf. It would have been one thing if she hadn't mentioned it, but the moment Tong Tuesday did, Zhao Hong's anger exploded. He violently flung her hand away. And you still have the nerve to ask? What was that plea for help letter about? Why wasn't it your elder sister's handwriting? Did she trick you? Tong Tuesday was thrown backward into the edge of the table behind her. The impact hurt so much that her whole body trembled. With tears in her eyes, she said, how could that be? Tong Wai's handwriting has always been ugly since childhood. I've always imitated it exactly. When Zhao Hong heard the truth, he became even more furious and shouted, what? You wrote that plea letter by imitating her hand? What exactly were you trying to pull? That fool Tong Wai panicked and did nothing but cry when she heard the family had been struck by disaster. She couldn't even hold a brush steady, so I had no choice but to write a letter for my sister. But I clearly imitated it very well. You call that very well? Prince Xian had the love letters Liamo and Tong Wai wrote to each other. One glance was enough to see the two styles were worlds apart. Anyone who wasn't blind could tell immediately. He clutched his head in despair and continued. Prince Xian said I was incompetent. This time, all my hopes for promotion have been completely ruined by you. Tong Tuesday had never expected things to turn out this way, and disbelief flashed across her eyes. Her face turned deathly pale with panic. In my previous life, the Bin Marquis Manor was raided and exiled, and Zhao Hong was promoted 2 ranks because of this very matter. The more she thought about it, the more she felt everything was gradually slipping beyond her control. Where exactly had things gone wrong? Knowing that now was not the time to lose her temper, Tong Tuesday put on the appearance of a frail, delicate woman and tearfully recounted all her efforts. Husband, are you blaming me? For all these years, who have I worked myself to the bone for? And now, just because I failed once, husband turns around and resents me. If I had known it would be like this, I would rather have said nothing at all. At Tong Tuesday's soft sobbing, Zhao Hong silently pinched the bridge of his nose. Slowly, he recalled everything. Tong Tuesday always seemed able to foresee certain events. She truly had helped him avoid many dangers and had also made his achievements stand out. Since marrying Tong Tuesday, in only 5 or 6 years, she had helped him rise 2 ranks in succession. Even his transfer back to Beijing had been thanks to Tong Tuesday. After thinking it through, he walked over and gently coaxed her in a low voice. I was muddled by anger after being provoked by Liam O, so I misspoke in the heat of the moment. I hope my wife won't take it to heart. Husband, Huir doesn't blame you. Leaning against Zhao Hong's chest, Tong Tuesday bit her lip and thought resentfully, in my previous life, I was Liam-O's wife for 8 years. Until the day we were exiled, Liam-O never wrote me a single love poem. So why does that Tong? Why get to have Liam-O's love letters? And the course of events has already diverged from my memories of my past life. I have to find out as quickly as possible what exactly happened. At the prince's residence, before sleeping every watch of the night, Shun Tong always drank a bowl of medicine to suppress the illness that could flare up at any time. Thinking of Nam Ka, the bailiff praised sincerely. Liam-O is truly blessed to have such a clever daughter. The imperial order to raid the household had already been issued. They were on the verge of exile, yet that little girl stubbornly turned the whole situation around. She practically carried an imperial decree and saved the entire family. Don't you think so, Your Highness? The bailiff added with a grin, currying favor. Of course, his greatest blessing is still that Your Highness was willing to help. Actually, when Your Highness saw Tongshire take out the love poem, you already knew Liam-O had been wrong, didn't you? Shin Tong coldly tossed the empty medicine bowl at him and cursed, "Too much talk." The bailiff was long used to this and quickly caught it. Whoa, that was close. Looking at the pet in front of him, Shun Tong argued stubbornly. I merely wanted to find Snow Eagle a delicious lunch. At the words delicious lunch, Snow Eagle's eyes immediately lit up. Although the bailiff had seen straight through him, he did not expose him. Your Highness really does have an even harder mouth than usual. Ah, right. Before enjoying a fine meal, one has to go hungry first. Let's starve for a day. Tomorrow afternoon, go to the Bin Marquis Manor and bring that little girl back here. Hearing this merciless judgment, Snow Eagle looked as though it had turned to stone. It let out a protesting whine. Woo-woo. The bailiff sighed and stroked it soothingly. His Highness is angry that you got so close to that little girl yesterday. Be smarter next time. Snow Eagle wanted to cry itself dry. All it could do was bark, woof woof, while its stomach screamed with hunger. Snow Eagle felt terribly wronged, but Snow Eagle couldn't say a word. The bailiff anxiously followed behind Shin Tong and probed. Your Highness, do you really intend to feed that lovely little girl to Snow Eagle? Still troubled at heart, Shun Tong lied without batting an eye. If not, then what? Keep her around for New Year. Back at the Bin Marquis Manor, Nam Ka suddenly sneezed several times in a row. She rubbed her nose and muttered, "Who's talking about me? Huh, is it morning already?" Nam Ka tiredly stretched her arms, while inwardly guessing, today there should probably be a verdict on father as well. Tong Wai, awakened by her daughter, also stirred, but the moment she looked outside, she froze. Kara, look outside quickly. The eunuch leading the group entered the Bin Marquis Manor and shouted loudly, "An imperial decree has arrived. The people of the Bin Marquis Manor, come receive the decree." The Bin head of household angrily slammed his palm on the table with a bang and cursed through gritted teeth, "Look at the disaster you've brought on us. If you hadn't gone begging Prince Xian, how could the exiled decree have arrived so quickly?" He declared indignantly, "And that unfilial son dares drag the whole family down with him. If we really are exiled, I'll beat the 3 of you to death on the road before we've even gone far." Tong Wai, after being scolded, reverted to her fearful nature and could only cover her face and cry. The Bin Madam spoke up to dissuade him. Why frighten the mother and daughter like this? If we truly are raided and exiled, then that is simply the fate of our whole family. We'll treat it as a tribulation our family has encountered. If a calamity comes, then we must face it. Seeing that her grandmother, though still ill, was defending the 2 of them, Nam Ka was moved. Grandma was clearly bedridden from illness, yet she still struggled out to sit in the main hall with us. In this household, perhaps only Grandma truly treats us well. Rebuked by his wife, the Bin head of household immediately turned to scold her too. You still dare argue back? That unfilial son is the way he is because you spoiled him. Useless, the lot of you. You. The Bin Madam was so angry that she began coughing uncontrollably. Cough, cough, cough. Nam Ka ran over sensibly to pat her back, saying distressedly, "Grandmother, don't be angry." Her eyes turned cold as she looked toward that vicious grandfather. Grandfather's words are not mere angry talk. In the dream, as soon as the exile decree arrived, before the family had even set out, Grandfather rushed in and beat the 3 of us. She raised her voice. The palace attendant hasn't even announced the decree yet, so how can Grandfather already be so certain it's an exile decree? Only an exile decree would be delivered before morning court, and the Yamen runners escorting prisoners have already arrived. There's no use being afraid now. If you want to blame someone, blame your useless father for dragging the whole family down with him. Nam Ka's small hands clenched tightly as she retorted forcefully. What if it is an exile? Maybe Prince Xian has already uncovered the truth that father was framed. The Bin head of household replied dismissively, If your father is innocent, then snow might as well fall in the 6th month. If we truly are exiled, then everyone can look after themselves. The disaster was caused by your father, so your family can bear yourselves. Don't come begging us. So grandfather means that if we are not exiled, then from now on everyone in this household will go their own way too. Is that right? He swept his gaze toward the eunuch and the officers, then judged aloud. That pale blue official uniform. One look, and it's obviously for announcing exile. Certain beyond doubt that his own guess was right, he stiffly made a wager, as if you'd really have that kind of luck. If you do, then from now on, you could be the one in charge of this household. Nam Ka smiled brilliantly and agreed without hesitation. Fine, grandfather said it himself, so don't go back on your word. The people of the Marquis Manor receive the decree. Tong Wai stepped forward to help her mother-in-law up and asked her daughter anxiously, Kar, is the decree outside really for our exile? Nam Ka answered firmly, No, mother. Let's help grandmother out to receive the decree. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Li Mo, heir of the Bin Marquis Manor, neglected his duties and failed imperial grace. He is hereby stripped of office and sentenced to 30 strokes and fined 5,000 taels of silver. He may return home after the case is concluded. The Bin Marquis, for failing to discipline his son strictly, shall forfeit 1 year of salary and receive 20 lashes. Respect this. Nam Ka cried tears of joy. Mother, did you hear that? Father didn't embezzle anything. We're not being exiled anymore. Tong Wai still could not quite believe it, her eyes dazed. Yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Clinging tightly to her mother's hand, Nam Ka wept with happiness. I did it. Our whole family won't be exiled anymore. That means the plot of the book can be changed, and I won't have to go through those terrible things from the dream either. The Bin head of household, implicated and punished as well, shouted angrily, That unfilial son dares drag me down too, and even got my salary docked. His ugly change in attitude displeased the eunuch. Marquis, are you dissatisfied with his majesty's judgment? Realizing he had misspoken, the man's face darkened with fear as he reached out to receive the decree. This subject would not dare. The eunuch bent slightly and reminded him with a cold smile. His Majesty said the fine is to be paid directly to the Ministry of Revenue, but the Marquis's lashes are to be carried out immediately before the manor gates, as a lesson to the Marquis. The Bin head of household broke out in sweat and answered through clenched teeth, Yes. This subject respectfully obeys the imperial will. Under the watch of countless commoners, the Marquis cried out miserably as he was punished. Ow, ow, laughed at by so many people. His face flushed bright red with shame, making me take punishment in the street like this. Where am I supposed to put my old face after this? After the punishment, the Bin head of household was unable to walk and had to be supported back inside by servants. Nam Ka ran over and blocked his path. Pointing at her own face, she declared with a grin, From now on, I'll be the one making decisions in this house. Grandfather, you have to keep your word. Before he could even retort, Nam Ka had already skipped off happily to urge her mother on. Mother, hurry. Let's move our things back. The Bin head of household trembled with rage. You all want to rebel? Rebellion. This is outright rebellion. Nam Ka could barely stop smiling. Their property had not been confiscated, and she had even gained authority over the household. This was simply too good. Just then, Nanny Chien, the wet nurse who had accompanied Tong Wai as part of her dowry, came in wearing a cold expression and said, The Song family has sent word. The master and madam are very worried about the situation at the Marquis Manor and asked that you return for a visit no matter what. Yesterday had been Mid-Autumn Festival, and she should originally have gone back to her maiden home. Now that something had happened in the family, father and mother must be terribly worried after hearing the news. She urged her daughter, Kar, go wash your face and change your clothes. We're going back to visit your maternal grandparents. Yes. A little later, Tong Wai emerged after changing into a solemn, formal outfit, her expression turning serious. When Nam Ka saw her mother dressed like this, she sighed in displeasure. She bluntly criticized, Mother, change into something else. You look ugly in that. Tong Wai was rather surprised by her daughter's reaction. She said softly, But this is what Mother always wore when returning to her maiden home before. Nanny Chien also said it looked nice. That dressing this way made me look dignified and refined. Nam Ka Ka pursed her lips and looked toward Nanny Qian. Nanny Qian had taken care of her mother since childhood, then followed her into the marquee manor after her marriage, even taking it upon herself to manage everything in her mother's courtyard. She was also the person her mother trusted most. But in the dream, Nanny Qian's real master had actually been Mother's stepmother. She had deliberately sent Nanny Qian here to suppress Mother. Moreover, in the dream, when the whole family was exiled, Nanny Qian immediately packed up and returned to the Song family, abandoning Mother. She had even mocked her with a laugh. Haha, what a fool. Completely useless. Nam Ka was determined to change her mother. Eagerly, she suggested, "Can I do Mother's makeup for you today?" All right, she secretly resolved. From now on, I won't let Mother be deceived again. I have to gradually change the way Mother dresses. Not wanting to disappoint her daughter, Tong Wai quickly indulged her. All right, Mother will listen to Ka in everything. But when Nam Ka looked at her mother's wardrobe, her mood sank heavily. No matter how skilled you are, it's hard to work without proper materials. But then, remembering something, she hurried off to rummage through another place. She recalled that Father had once given Mother a set of clothes. After a good deal of searching, Nam Ka finally found it. In her hands was a pink outfit that brought out youthful freshness. Delighted, Nam Ka said, "Found it. Mother, wear this one." Nanny Qian stepped forward to block her. "This color is far too bright. It doesn't suit Madam. Besides, the air is still being held at the censorate. If Madam dresses so flamboyantly, what will outsiders think?" Tong Wai found her words reasonable and hesitated a little. "That's true. I'm already over 20, so colors this bright and light don't really suit me anymore. Perhaps I should just keep wearing what I have on." Nanny Qian secretly smiled to herself in satisfaction. The more rustic and plain, the better. The old Madam would like that even more. Nam Ka's brows knit tightly together, and every bit of goodwill she had toward Nanny Qian vanished. Mother had lost her birth mother when she was young, and her current stepmother was extremely good at putting on appearances. That woman had never truly cared for Mother, and had even sent this sly servant, Nanny Qian, to deliberately guide Mother with warped ideas. I have to slowly correct all of Mother's mistaken beliefs. Suddenly, Nam Ka burst into heartbreaking tears. Connie doesn't think this outfit is flashy at all, and Father gave it to Mother. If Mother wears it, Father will definitely be very happy. The more she spoke, the louder she cried. Throwing a tantrum, she said, "Mother trusts Nanny Qian, but not me. Mother doesn't love me. I'm so sad. I won't be Mother's daughter anymore. Let Nanny Qian be Mother's daughter instead." Hearing the meaning behind Nam Ka's words, Nanny Qian's face darkened. TCH, what is she saying? As if I could become Tong Wai's daughter. Isn't Lai Nam Ka just scolding me in disguise? Tong Wai's heart ached at her daughter's tears. Hugging her close, she coaxed, "Mother loves Ka Ni the most. Don't cry anymore. Mother will listen to you, all right?" Nam Ka looked up and asked, "Really? Then from now on, Mother has to listen to me about what you wear." Saying that, she smiled brightly like a flower and pushed her mother to go change. Seeing her daughter happy again, Tong Wai also felt joyful and agreed to all her requests. All right, Mother will listen to Ka Ni." After changing, Tong Wai stared at herself in the mirror in astonishment. Nam Ka praised her endlessly. "Mother, you're so beautiful." Tong Wai blushed red with embarrassment and asked in an unconfident voice, do I really look good like this?" Nam Ka smiled radiantly and praised her sincerely. Of course, Mother is the most beautiful person in the world. Nanny Qian, however, was far from pleased. She stepped forward, wanting to ruin Tong Wai's image, and pretended to reproach her. Miss is still young and playful, but how can Madam indulge her? Madam is dressed far too carelessly like this. Even our young lady's reputation will be affected. How will she discuss marriage with others in the future? Tong Wai, without the slightest suspicion, immediately believed Nanny Qian's words. It will affect Ka Ni? Then perhaps I'd better change back into the one from before. Seeing Tong Wai starting to remove the outfit, Nanny Qian smiled smugly and sinisterly. I watched her grow up, so I know exactly what she cares about most. That means I've got a grip on her. Nam Ka instantly understood her intention, and anger surged in her heart. This Nanny Qian is actually using me to pressure Mother. She's truly vile. No, this time I have to teach her a lesson she'll never forget. Smiling, she waved her hand and called to the woman, "Nanny Qian, come here for a moment. I have something to say to you." Nanny Qian approached with a sour expression, lowered her head, and asked resentfully, "If Miss has something to say, just say it." With a calm smile, Nam Ka suddenly splashed the cup of water in her hand straight into the woman's face. Shock flashed across Nanny Qian's eyes. She awkwardly raised her hand to wipe the water off her face, then began her old routine, wailing noisily. This servant truly has no face left to live. I've served my master all my life, only to be humiliated by the young mistress in the end. As she spoke, she pretended to charge toward a nearby pillar. Then I may as well smash my head and die. Only then did Tong Wai come back to her senses and reach out to stop her. Nanny Qian, don't. Nam Ka tugged at her mother's skirt and shook her head. Mother, don't rush. Nanny Qian is just scaring you. Have you ever seen someone who truly wants to die and make such a loud show of it in advance like she does? Hearing her daughter's analysis, eyes. Tong Wai froze and carefully recalled the past. That's right. Every time Nanny Qian and I disagreed before, she would cry and say she might as well smash her head and die. She shouted that countless times, but it's true. She doesn't seem to have ever actually done it once. Mother and daughter then stood there in silence, ignoring everything, just watching to see what she would do. Nanny Qian clung tightly to the pillar, standing motionless while cursing inwardly. Damn it, why is no one coming to stop me? She secretly glanced at Tong Wai to test her mood, then switched tactics and dropped to her knees to complain. Putting on crocodile tears, Nanny Qian sobbed nonstop. I don't know what this servant did wrong for Miss to throw water at me like that. Nam Ka replied innocently, Nanny Qian, are you dim-sighted or blind? Connie only wanted to wash your eyes for you. Nanny Qian instantly broke out in a cold sweat. This servant's eyes are perfectly fine. How am I blind? Nam Ka pointed at her own mother and declared loudly, if Nanny Qian isn't blind, then why do you think mother looks good in dull brown-gray clothes? If you're not blind, then why do you call it flirtatious when mother wears bright colors? Nanny Qian, open your eyes and look carefully. Mother looks so beautiful dressed like this, yet you lie the moment you open your eyes. If that isn't blindness, what is it? I only meant well. Do your eyes feel any clearer now? Faced with Nam Ka's sharp words, Nanny Qian was left speechless and unable to twist her way out of it. This. Nam Ka picked up a steaming teapot and smiled as if to say, if that's not enough, I can get another one. Nanny Qian's face darkened with fear. She hurriedly raised her sleeve to shield her face. Oh, no need. They really are. Really are a little clearer now. Nam Ka walked closer and pressed. Then take a good look, Nanny Qian. Does mother's outfit look beautiful or not? Is it still flirtatious and improper? For some reason, a chill ran down Nanny Qian's spine, and she could only answer, beautiful, very beautiful. After setting Nanny Qian straight, Nam Ka happily ran back to show off to her mother. See, mother, washing eyes with water really works. Nanny Qian isn't blind anymore. Tong Wai happily praised her. Connie did the right thing. Holding her mother's hand, she walked to the door, then paused slightly and deliberately turned back to say loudly enough for Nanny Qian behind them to hear, I think Nanny Qian is getting old and her eyesight is poor now, so she probably isn't suitable to attend mother anymore. When we get back, mother, change her out for someone else. Mother will listen, Connie. Nanny Qian was so tense she had to bite her nails. Looking at the straight-backed figures of Tong Wai and her daughter, she felt a sense of wariness rise in her heart. For all these years, the old madam's task for me was to suppress Tong Wai and make her dress as ugly as possible. It was originally such an easy job, so why has it suddenly become like hitting a wall today? Seeing Nanny Qian's greenish, miserable face, Nam Ka felt rather satisfied. She let out a cold snort and muttered to herself, this is only the beginning. Nanny Qian has bullied mother for years and done so many bad things behind her back. I'll make her pay back every bit of it, little by little. The coachman drove the horses toward the Tong residence. Inside the carriage, Tong Wai held her daughter tightly and asked seriously, Connie, do you really think the clothes in mother's wardrobe aren't pretty? Nam Ka turned around and reached out to touch her mother's face. Smiling brightly, she said sincerely, of course. Mother is only 26 this year, which is the most beautiful age. Your skin is so fair and smooth, so you should wear bright colors to look elegant and lovely. Those dark blue-gray shades only make people look sallow and old. But before, Nanny Qian said those colors looked dignified and refined. Nam Ka shook her head and explained it clearly for her mother. Nanny Qian was lying to you, mother. Grandmother wanted you to be inferior to aunt, so she had Nanny Qian suppress you and force you to wear old-fashioned clothes to make you look ugly. Tong Wai asked in disbelief, how do you know that? Nam Ka had no choice but to make up an excuse. The fairy granny told me. If mother doesn't believe me, then in a moment just watch. Grandmother will definitely make mother change into something old and ugly too. Hearing her daughter say that, Tong Wai asked no more questions, but a trace of doubt still flickered in her eyes. Could what Connie said really be true? As soon as Tong Wai and her daughter stepped through the gates of the Tong residence, they saw a woman hurrying out to greet them with the air of a loving mother. My daughter, oh my dear daughter, you nearly worried me to death. This woman was Madame Zhang, Tong Wai's stepmother and Tong Tuesday's birth mother. Holding Tong Wai's hand, she said with feigned concern, thank heavens, the Bin mansion finally escaped disaster. I made mother worry for me. When Madame Zhang noticed that Tong Wai was dressed so brightly today, she was not pleased. Pretending to advise her, she said, where is Nanny Qian? How could she match you with clothes like this? At your age, if you dress in such bright colors, people will think you're frivolous. Though she said that aloud, inwardly, she was gnashing her teeth with jealousy. If she dresses this beautifully, won't she steal all the attention from my Tuesdayer? I absolutely must make her change. Tong Wai froze in place. It really was exactly as Connie had said. Seeing Tong Wai lost in thought, Madame Zhang pressed, what are you thinking about? Did you hear what I said clearly? Tong Wai steadied herself and answered softly, "Of course I heard mother's words." Seeing this, Madame Zhang immediately suggested, "I have a newly made brown-gray pleated skirt there. It was originally made for your younger sister, but never mind, you can take it and change into it first." At Madame Zhang's signal, a maid quickly brought in a set of old-looking clothes. Madame Zhang urged her repeatedly, "Hurry and put it on. Remember well, dress according to your age. Only if you dress with dignity and bearing will others respect you." Tong Wai clenched both hands tightly. "If I agree to change, won't that mean I'll keep being controlled like this? But I don't want that." Just then, Nam Ka spoke up to rescue her mother. Pointing toward the entrance, she called out loudly, "Mother, look, Aunt is here." Tong Tuesday walked in unhurriedly and pretended to be delighted. "Elder sister, thank goodness brother-in-law is all right." Madame Zhang walked over to her daughter while still talking to Tong Wai. "Something happened in your household, and your younger sister was worried sick too. The moment she heard you had returned, she rushed over at once." While no one was paying attention, Nam Ka tightly squeezed her hands to encourage her mother and give her strength. In a low voice only the two of them could hear, she said, "Mother, do your best. You can do it." Encouraged by her daughter, Tong Wai firmly took Madame Zhang's outfit into her hands. Then she walked over and handed it to Tong Tuesday. "Younger sister, this gift is for you." Tong Tuesday took one look at the ugly outfit and immediately refused. "I don't want it." Afraid her daughter would expose the lie she had made up, Madame Zhang quickly cut in. "Today your elder sister's clothes are inappropriate, so I brought over the outfit made for you first and offered it to her." A string of question marks practically appeared over Tong Tuesday's head as she failed to understand what her mother meant. Madame Zhang hurriedly whispered instructions. "Just play along. Say what I say and trick her into changing into the ugly outfit. Only then will your beauty stand out." Only then did Tong Tuesday understand. With an extremely fake smile, she said, "Since mother already gave it to elder sister should just wear it. Surely we sisters don't need to fuss over such things." Tong Wai had already made up her mind not to obey Madame Zhang's arrangements anymore, so she immediately objected. "This outfit was given to me by my husband. Today, he suffered the rod, so I want to wear it to pray for blessings for him. Therefore, I cannot change." Glancing at the outfit in Tong Wai's hands, she continued, "Mother said this one is very pretty. I don't want to take away something someone else likes." Watching Madame Zhang toss the ball and Tong Tuesday catch it, Nam Ka's eyes practically hurt from the sight. She immediately struck back with a question. "Grandmother says my mother is too old to dress too flirtatiously. But mother and aunt are the same age, so why is aunt dressed so flirtatiously too?" Tong Wai also joined in with her daughter. "That's right. Younger sister's clothes today are far too bright. She doesn't look very dignified. You'd better hurry and change out of them." Tong Tuesday's face stiffened. Making an excuse, she replied, "I left in such a hurry today that I didn't have time to choose an outfit. In any case, what matters is that we sisters talk, right?" Nam Ka refused to let the matter drop. Putting on the innocent expression of an 8-year-old child, she asked, "If mother wears something inappropriate, grandmother immediately make her change it right away. Now, Aunt is also dressed inappropriately, so why isn't grandmother telling Aunt to change too? Or is it because grandmother doesn't love Aunt anymore?" Madame Zhang and Tong Tuesday broke into a nervous sweat from Nam Ka's words. Madame Zhang stood there stunned, thinking, this wretched little girl. How am I supposed to answer that? Helplessly, she turned her gaze toward her own daughter. "If I don't tell Tuesdayer to change now, I'm afraid it will be hard to make Tong. Why let this go?" I never expected that after deceiving her for more than 20 years, she would now turn the tables and lead me around instead. The more she thought about it, the more bitter and resentful she became. Under Tong Tuesday's astonished gaze, Madame Zhang gritted her teeth and gave the order, "Go. Go change your clothes." Though unwilling, Tong Tuesday had no choice but to comply. "Yes." Nam Ka looked at Tong Tuesday's stiff back and grinned victoriously. "Wonderful. At last, the people who bullied mother have gotten a taste of their own medicine." 15 minutes later, Tong Tuesday returned with a drooping face, dressed in old-looking clothes. Internally, she panicked. What's going on? Why has everything strayed so far from the plot of my previous life? Seeing Tong Wai's youthful, radiant smile, a trace of jealousy rose in Tong Tuesday's heart. Could someone be giving that woman advice and trying to snatch something from me? Filled with doubts, Tong Tuesday walked over in front of Tong Wai and probed. When the family property was confiscated, how did elder sister think of asking Prince Shun for help? Or did someone give you the idea? The moment Tong Tuesday finished asking, a look of surprise flashed over Tong Wai's face. Inwardly, she thought in shock, I can't believe Ka and Ni actually predicted this question earlier in the carriage. The scene of mother and daughter talking in the carriage surfaced in Tong Wai's mind. At that time, Nam Ka had repeatedly instructed her, in a bit, Aunt will definitely probe what exactly happened that day. When that happens, mother, just answer like this and like this. Nam Ka was still calmly eating fruit now, and no one noticed that she was quietly signaling her mother. Receiving her daughter's signal, Tong Wai immediately turned on the waterworks and burst into sobs. Woo-woo, no one told me anything. At the time, I was so frightened that I went blank. When I saw the Imperial Guards come to confiscate the family property, all I knew was to kneel and beg. Forget Prince Shun. Even if a dog had run into the house at that moment, I probably would have cried and begged it just the same. Tong Tuesday sharply caught the implication in Tong Wai's words and turned purple with anger. Her face darkened. So the one who went to the Yinbin mansion afterward was me. She's going in circles just to call me a dog? Though somewhat annoyed, Tong Tuesday still restrained herself fairly well and continued probing from another angle. Then what about the love poem? Was that also because Prince Shin asked you about it? Covering her face, Tong Wai sniffled and replied, "Who else would it be? If Prince Shun hadn't asked about the handwriting, I wouldn't have remembered it either." At that point, Tong Wai raised her eyes and asked Tong Tuesday in return, "But why are you asking about this? Do you also have some matter in which you need Prince Shin's help?" Feeling guilty, Tong Tuesday sat down and answered with a forced smile, "No, I'm just curious. I heard from my husband that yesterday at the censorate, Prince Shun took out the love poem brother-in-law wrote for you. That was how brother-in-law was able to clear himself of the embezzlement charge." After probing Tong Wai, Tong Tuesday concluded inwardly, "Looking at this stupid crybaby, there's no way she could have come up with any scheme. I must have been overthinking." Tong Wai blushed deeply and pretended to be shy. "My husband too. How could he show our love poem to others? It's so embarrassing." Sipping her tea, Tong Tuesday asked again, "Exactly. And I heard your handwriting is quite beautiful. Is that right? Could it be that you've been practicing often all these years?" Tong Wai replied modestly, "My handwriting isn't good. My husband personally practiced with me every day. He even held my hand and taught me how to write. I truly couldn't bear to let down his good intentions, so I could only practice diligently." Tong Tuesday's expression darkened with jealousy. She thought resentfully. Every day they practiced together, and he even held her hand to teach her. Then why, in my previous life, when I married Liamo, was I never treated that well? Nam Ka carefully observed Tong Tuesday's expression, knew she was uncomfortable inside, and did not hesitate to pour on more cold water. In an innocent voice, Nam Ka asked, "Aunt, you look really angry. Is it because Uncle doesn't practice calligraphy with you? But why doesn't Uncle practice with you? Could it be because he doesn't like you?" Having had her sore spot struck, Tong Tuesday trembled with rage and gritted her teeth. "Was that little bitch deliberately rubbing salt in my wound? Zhao Hong only ever thinks about his official career. He doesn't have a single romantic bone in his body. Forget writing love poems for me or practicing calligraphy with me. Even on our wedding night, he nearly nodded off to sleep." Following the plan Nam Ka had already laid out for her, Tong Wai spoke exactly as instructed. She burst into tears and wailed miserably. "Mother, little sister, tell me. Our marquee household was doing perfectly fine, so how did we end up entangled in this mess? There must be some vile, petty villain secretly framing us. Just who is so rotten-hearted that they want our whole family dead. That's right. Doesn't your husband work at the censorate? If we ask him for help, he'll definitely be able to find that despicable villain. Little sister, you'll help us, won't you?" Seeing that Tong Tuesday did not answer, Tong Wai cried even harder in a sorrowful voice, "You will help, won't you, little sister?" Boo-hoo. Tong Tuesday cautiously pulled her hand back, sweating as she thought to herself, "Who exactly is testing whom here? Not only did I fail to get any information, now I even have to help her do things." Madame Zhang, who had been listening the whole time, finally spoke. "Although the anonymous letter is kept at the censorate, it would be difficult for your husband to openly show favoritism, but asking him to quietly look into it should be possible. Enough. What's done is done. It's getting late. Let's go eat." At the dinner table, everyone remained silent, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Tong Tuesday poked repeatedly at the rice in her bowl with her chopsticks, her gaze furtively studying Tong Wai. No matter how she looked at her, Tong Wai still seemed just as foolish as before. Then who exactly was it that ruined my foolproof plan? Her gaze stopped on Nam Ka. Could it be that little girl, Lai Nam Ka? Nam Ka was gnawing happily on a chicken drumstick. Sensing Tong Tuesday's stare, she looked back at her as well. To dispel Tong Tuesday's suspicion, Nam Ka put on the innocent expression of an 8-year-old child. Holding out the drumstick toward Tong Tuesday, she said, "This drumstick is really tasty. Aunt, do you want to try some?" Only then did Tong Tuesday withdraw her gaze and force out an awkward smile. "No, Aunt won't eat it. You go ahead. I really must be crazy. Lai Nam Ka is only 8. All she knows every day is eating and playing. What could she possibly know?" Tong Tuesday secretly admonished herself. It seemed that even though the events of the previous life had already happened once, things could still change. From now on, I have to be even more careful. As Nam Ka ate, she carefully observed Tong Tuesday. Judging by how Aunt's expression kept shifting unpredictably, she was probably plotting something bad again. Nam Ka sna inwali, but that's fine. Even if it's my aunt, I'll block every single move. After the meal, Tong Wai found an excuse to leave. Sitting in the carriage, she was so heartbroken that tears streamed down her face. She had never imagined that everything Kan Ni said was true. It really had been her younger sister and her brother-in-law who framed her husband, and they were also the ones who wanted to pocket the silver for themselves. I thought coming back to my maiden home would bring me care and comfort, but instead all I got was questioning and suspicion from my younger sister and my stepmother. The more Tong Wai thought about it, the more painful it felt. She buried her face in her sleeve and cried bitterly. Why? Why are they treating me like this? She worried constantly about her mother's state of mind. What had happened today had been a huge blow to her. Mother must be devastated. But better heartache than being deceived by bad people forever. I could be Mother's armor and protect her, but Mother also has to recognize who the bad people are. Nam Ka stood on tiptoe and gently kissed her mother's cheek as if offering comfort. Looking straight into her mother's eyes, she declared seriously, "Mother, don't be afraid. You still have Kan Ni and Father. From now on, Father and I will always protect you." Tears still streamed down Tong Wai's face as she reached out and hugged her daughter tightly. "Connie, do you think Mother is too foolish? Ever since I was little, people have always treated me like an idiot. Mother is so useless." Nam Ka shook her head and softly refuted her. "Mother isn't foolish. Mother is just too kind, so bad people bully you. Don't be afraid, because from now on, Kan Ni is here. I was once guided by the fairy lady, so I'll definitely be able to protect Mother." She smiled brightly and gave her mother a suggestion. "Mother only needs to remember this. If grandmother or aunt tries again to coax and deceive you with sweet words, just cry as loudly as you can. Cry so everyone can see." Tong Wai was a little embarrassed. It's not that Mother wants to cry, but whenever something happens, I just can't hold it in. I'm still too useless. Nam Ka wrapped her arms around her mother's neck, wanting to pass her own warmth onto her. "No, you did very well today. Didn't you notice at dinner? Grandmother and aunt were so affected by your crying that they could barely swallow their food. So don't think crying is useless anymore, all right?" Connie thinks Mother is the best mother in the whole world. She still remembered clearly what she had seen in her dream. When danger approached, this very mother had protected her without caring even for her own life. A few tears slipped from the corners of Nam Ka's eyes. She silently vowed to herself, "Since heaven has allowed me to awaken to the story in the book, I must protect Father, Mother, and Grandmother too." As the carriage moved along, the coachman suddenly yanked it to a halt, causing Nam Ka and her mother to sway violently inside. Tong Wai lifted the curtain and asked warily, "Why have we stopped?" It turned out the one blocking their carriage was Zhang Erfeng. Folding his hands, he said, "I am Zhang Erfeng, a guard of Prince Xian's residence. Today, under Prince Xian's orders, I have come to take Lai Nam Ka away to feed the dog." Nam Ka's face instantly went pale. She suddenly remembered that she still had an agreement with that Prince Xian. Tong Wai, meanwhile, turned deathly white and clutched her daughter in terror. "My daughter is still young. Why don't I go feed the dog in her place? I beg Prince Xian to spare my daughter's life." Zhang Erfeng answered awkwardly. Prince Xian ordered that Lai Nam Ka be brought over immediately. "Madam, please don't make things difficult for me." Though afraid, Nam Ka still forced a smile. "Io." She wriggled out of her mother's embrace and jumped down from the carriage. Walking toward Zhang Erfeng, she waved lightly with a smile. "Hello, uncle. We meet again." She asked cautiously, "Uncle, can you let me arrange two things first? After that, I'll go to the prince's residence by myself." Tong Wai ran toward her daughter in alarm and tried to stop her. "No, Gani." Nam Ka was fairly calm. She smiled and shook her head gently, signaling for her mother not to worry. Seeing her like this, Zhang Erfeng fell silent in thought. Nam Ka raised a hand and swore toward the sky. "I always keep my word. If I don't arrive at Prince Xian's residence within half a shurchen, Uncle can come and capture me himself." Looking at how sensible she was, Zhang Erfeng's heart softened. Such a cute little girl. If she ended up as Shui Ying's lunch, that would really be such a pity. The prince is too cruel. Thinking this, Zhang Erfeng sighed and compromised. "Fine, I'll give you half a shurchen. If the time is up, I'll personally come to seize you." "Thank you, uncle. You really are a good person." Zhang Erfeng leapt onto his horse. "I'm leaving first. Make good use of the time." "Yes, sir." With that, he galloped off toward Prince Xian's residence. Tong Wai, tears pouring down her face, reached out and hugged her daughter tightly. "Connie, don't be afraid. Let Mother go in your place. I absolutely won't let the dog hurt you even a little." Nam Ka thought it over carefully. Mother was serious, but if this angered Prince Xian, I'm afraid our whole family wouldn't have enough heads to lose. She raised a hand and wiped away her mother's tears, smiling to reassure her. "Mother, don't worry. Connie has her own way. Besides, the fairy lady is protecting me, so I won't be eaten by the dog." Looking into her daughter's confident eyes, Tong Wai somehow found herself believing her as well. "All right, Mother believes you." Nam Ka leaned close to her mother's ear and whispered something only the two of them could hear. "Mother, I want you to help me prepare a few things." After hearing her daughter's whispered instructions, Tong Wai wiped away her tears with her sleeve. No one knew what Nam Ka had said, but Tong Wai's face flushed slightly, and her words were full of resolve. "All right, Mother will go at once. at Prince Xian's residence. As soon as Shuntong heard Zhang Erfeng's report, he furiously demanded, "You actually believe that a little girl would come here on her own to die? Zhang Erfeng, did you forget to bring your brain with you when you went out today?" Shuntong's icy rebuke frightened Zhang Erfeng so much that he hurriedly dropped to his knees and admitted his fault. This subordinate knows he was wrong. "Please punish me, Your Highness." Shintong closed his eyes and said indifferently, "I'll give you half a shirchin. If that little girl hasn't arrived by then, go receive 20 lashes yourself." "Yes, Your Highness." At last, the half-shirchin passed. Seeing no sign of Nam Ka, Shuntong erupted in anger. Fooled by an 8-year-old girl, Zhang Erfeng, this prince is punishing you. Are you convinced? This subordinate accepts it willingly. Before he could finish, he heard Nam Ka's clear voice ring out beside him. From behind them, Nam Ka raised her little hand and waved repeatedly. "Uncle Erfeng." She ran over with a radiant smile. "I'm here." Shintong was rather surprised to see Nam Ka. This little girl isn't afraid at all of being fed to the dog? Should I call her foolish or ignorant? "Little girl, you really did keep your word." She walked to stand before Shintong and bowed. "Lai Nam Ka the Bin Marquis Manor greets Your Highness." Resting his chin on one hand as he leaned back in his chair, Shintong let out a cold laugh. Then he flicked his fingers and coldly ordered, "Throw this little girl to Shuang." "Yes, Your Highness." Zhang Erfeng pointed in another direction and said to Nam Ka, "Come, follow me." Nam Ka remained as calm as when she had first entered Prince Xian's residence. "Uncle Erfeng, please wait a moment. Let me get my things first." Under Zhang Erfeng's astonished gaze, Nam Ka hurried toward the guard behind her. She then took a basket from that guard's hands. The basket was rather large compared to Nam Ka's small body, and she staggered as she carried it, sweating from the effort. "Uncle Erfeng, this basket is too heavy." Faced with Nam Ka's clear, innocent eyes, Zhang Erfeng simply couldn't refuse. Smiling, he picked up the basket for her. "I'll carry it." "Nam Ka go la pet, go da fu li." Uncle Erfeng really is a good person. As they walked, Zhang Erfeng felt a little reluctant. This little girl really is adorable. Her voice is crisp and lively, and her face is so cute. Why would the prince be willing to let Shuang eat her? The moment they entered Shui Ying's area, Zhang Erfeng suddenly put the basket down on the ground. He took a deep breath, as if he had made up his mind. Turning to Nam Ka, he instructed her, "Don't go in yet. Just stay here and wait for me. I'm going somewhere, and we'll be back right away." Zhang Erfeng shut his eyes and ran off as fast as he could. In his head, there was only one thought. "I have to kneel and beg the prince to spare Lai Nam Ka. Even if I get flogged, so be it. Who could bear to watch such a cute little girl be eaten by a dog? That would be far too cruel." Nam Ka stared at Zhang Erfeng's hurried figure, utterly confused, countless question marks popping up in her mind. She guessed silently, why does Uncle Erfeng look so tragic and heroic? Did he leave because he couldn't bear to watch me get fed to the dog?